Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. There are five major players in the drama unfolding along the eastern part of the Syrian-Turkish border since early October. Presidents Trump, Erdogan, Putin and Assad, as well as Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei, whose contacts and actions are impacting on the military and diplomatic situation. To evaluate the volatile state of affairs and its implications, we're joined here in the studio by Dr. Mordechai Zaken, who's an expert on the Kurds and Middle Eastern minorities and former advisor on Israeli Arabs and minorities to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Welcome. Dr. Zaken, when we're looking at the situation in Syria, earlier this week at the White House, U.S. President Donald Trump was asked by a reporter whether he would leave a residual force or American force in Syria for different strategic reasons, to which Trump responded, saying that securing the oil is one point that the Americans are very keen on assuring a residual force in Syria, as well as a certain area near Jordan and Israel that is of strategic importance in order to secure both American allies. Do you believe that the Americans will go back on Trump's statement with regard to pulling back completely from Syria, or will this indeed be two factors that Washington is eager to maintain, also considering the fact that just one American flag, one American soldier is enough to threaten any country or any force that might want to undermine American policy?
It's very difficult to assess Trump's behavior and decisions, because if you remember, all of you, he already wanted to pull back in last December, and he was persuaded to hold and to postpone this act, maybe by the Israelis as well. And we all see the response and the criticism, especially among the Christian community, evangelical members of the Senate and supporters criticizing Trump for pulling out of Syria. And it's a kind of a zigzag in which he changes his opinion and decisions often. But I would like to concentrate maybe on the main issue, which is the issue of the Kurds. The way I see it, the main struggle is between Turkey and the Kurdish people. And it's now taking place in Syria, but last year it took place in Iraq. Whenever and wherever the Kurdish people are trying to fulfill their national aspiration and create a homeland, to create a state of their own, to create independence, it really raises aggressiveness and antagonism among the neighbors, especially among the power states, the local empire states like Iran or Iraq or Turkey. And it happened last year in Iraq, after Iraq was announcing that it's going to have a state. It's going to have an independent state after the referendum. Yeah. And all of a sudden, from being friends with Turkey and being in a federal contact within Iraq, all of a sudden, all the countries stood against the KRG, the Kurdish Regional Government, and attacked it and took a strategic point, and they conquered even Kirkuk, the oil neft. So it happens in Iraq, and now it happens in Syria. This is the main lesson I think we have to draw from the current conflict.
Dr. Zaken, when we're looking at Syria proper, the Kurds there were aware of the situation, where at the time when they were still fighting with YPG and PYD and the different smaller militant organizations in northeast and East Syria, ultimately, the United States came with its coalition of international members and said, please join us, we're fighting the Islamic State. And they joined or partnered with the United States in order to receive, first of all, also the backing, also the power of the Rome of the 21st century, but at the same time, they also understood we're a partner of, we're not necessarily allies. They received the equipment, they received the backing, and so on. To what degree are the leadership of the Kurds frustrated with the situation, considering the fact that everything was quite understood behind closed doors?
They are very frustrated and they are very disappointed. And even though the Kurds have had many times in the history have been treated in this way, have been behaved in a way that they were left by themselves, and they have been, in other words, betrayed, either by the Americans themselves in 1975 in Iraq, in what is known as Algiers Agreement, in which the Kurdish forces were simply were left alone to deal with their destiny by Iran and Iraq, which made a deal that was orchestrated by Kissinger, by the United States. So that was in 1975. They had a very major setback. The Kurds, led by the famous big champion of Kurdish nationalism, Mullah Mustafa Barzani. But they had other frustrations in even earlier, in 1946, in the Republic of Mahabad, if you remember, which was an independent state, the first Kurdish independent state in Iran, in the city of Mahabad or Saj Bulag, which existed only for 1 year. Also, at the time when the Russians left Iran in December 1946, the same very month, the Kurdish struggle collapsed. So we keep on seeing in the history of the Kurds that the Kurds have the willingness, they have the courage, they have the ability, they want to fight for their statehood or for their self-determination. But once and again, they keep on having setback and they keep on being disappointed by the superpower, once by Russia, other times by America, and just like now in Syria. They didn't expect it, they didn't see it coming. Maybe they were too naive, but it happens once again, and they are very frustrated and very upset, and having, I think the results are very bad because we keep on hearing about war crimes that take place by the Turkish army and other in Syria, and we'll see it.
Dr. Zaken, we have less than a minute. Do you believe that Israel will be more proactive when it comes to the Kurds in Syria?
In terms of what? I think
Humanitarian, military, diplomatic.
I don't think Israel could, as was said here, be active in a military way in the conflict of the Kurds. Israel could support the Kurds morally. It could express support, and we have seen a lot of demonstration. We have seen a lot of public talks about it. It might go also towards humanitarian help, which I think is important. And Israel and the Kurds, there's a mutual empathy between these two people because of the help that Israel extended to the Kurds.
Indeed. A lot of history. Unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for today. To thank our viewers as well, and we will see you next time.